I'm the king of retro. I'm the king of vintage, being vintage myself, to be honest, born 1982. Boom. So we've got two articles. The first one is this one. I'd like to start with it. So it has to do with the Commodore 64, ladies and gentlemen. This is a machine that was released in 1982, like me. And apparently, games are still being developed for this computer. Incredible. So let's have a look what they tell us. Racing engine for Commodore 64. Man, unbelievable. I mean, if these are the graphics, I'm impressed. I really am. I know it probably doesn't look like much for you if you're used to like freaking Gran Turismo 17, but guys, this is an act of wizard magic. If it works on a Commodore 64, that would be insane. We're talking like an 8-bit computer. Anyways, let's see. This project is an early-stage first-person racing game engine for the Commodore 64 developed by Piotr. The goal is to push the limits of the Commodore 64 by creating a technical foundation for 3D-style racing experiences on the classic hardware. You see, so already when they say push the limits, this looks like pushing the limits, all right? And these things really fascinate me, particularly when creators and developers are so good at taking and working around, creating workarounds, working around the limitations of the systems, and actually manage to do things that theoretically shouldn't be possible. I love it. Now, clearly, it can never be any forms of true 3D, because if you want to see true 3D, you need to go into the 16-bit era. In fact, there was some early low poly 3D on the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive. We do have some 3D games, actual 3D, on Super Nintendo, but usually they use the extra special effects chip, such as Star Wings or Star Fox, depending on where you had it. But when it comes to the Amiga 500, I think is where you start getting the original, and Amiga 1000 is where you start getting the first polygonal 3D simulators and driving games. So, of course, this is never going to have polygons, but it's going to simulate the 3D. So it's basically, in a way, I think a good way to understand this is that it's doing what Doom does, or Wolfenstein 3D, which wasn't 3D, in fact. It's basically using sprites and the way that the playing field is represented, I think, at least, to simulate, give you the impression of a 2D sprite over a plane that simulates a difference in the horizon, and then they use mathematics to, for instance, having scaling, object scaling. They did that with Outrun, which was a fantastic 2D simulation of 3D. But yeah, fascinating features. Simple track with slopes and curves. Basic slopes. Okay, this is getting intriguing now because, yeah, they're going to pull off an outrun. That's what they're going to do. Basic driving mechanics such as acceleration and steering. Yep. Horizontally scrolling background. Vertical scrolling is planned. Interesting. Yeah, this is fascinating. You love the F-18 flight simulator on your old DOS machine. Those are phenomenal. I like those. Sometimes the problem is the FPS if you don't have a beefy machine. And so that's the only thing that concerns me here, because technically this would be brilliant to try. I have, of course, an original Commodore 64, so if they do this... But to be honest, I would try it on an emulator as well, but if they do provide it on a floppy, like a 5.5 inches floppy, I'm buying this, I don't even care. I don't know if they're going to do that, though. The manufacture of those is a little bit complicated these days. Anyways, let's go. Upcoming improvement, vertical background scrolling, new track system for larger levels, game objects, cars, chevron signs, etc. So yeah, so as I was saying, game object is going to need a lot of math for the scaling. So I do understand why they're doing that later. Man, look at this, The Last Ninja. I remember this one. We should talk about isometric games as well. That could be fun to see. It was on 3.25 inches for you. Yeah, sure. Yeah, the floppy disk that I wasn't live on Protectorate yet when I showed the floppy disks. I'll show them in a second. Anyways, let's continue. The engine delivers clean and crisp graphics with the community has compared favorably to classic C64 racing titles like Test Drive and Grand Prix Circuit. Some feedback even highlights that it feels smoother and faster than those earlier benchmarks. Quite impressive 3D driving is a niche neglected by indie devs on the Commodore 64. Yeah, let's stop calling it 3D though, guys. It's simulated 3D. I think they have a word for it. It's like 4 3D. That's what it is. Very clean and crisp, makes test drive looks like a snail. This is probably the coolest C64 simulation ever. Ooh, we got a video. Okay, we got a video. We're gonna watch the video. Bring back Tenchu. I agree, 100%. Now, 2.5D, Kotova, is another thing. 2.5D is when you have a game that uses 3D assets, but it does not use the 3D movement. So a good idea of that is a lot of like fighting games are like that, or like some of those scrolling games when you go left to right, right to left, but you cannot go in depth, but the models are 3D. That would be 2.5. That's my understanding of it. But if you can move in a 3D plane, then it's true 3D. All right, let's check out this video. If the planned feature are implemented, the Commodore 64 community could gain a new racing game that both honors the classics and sets a new benchmark for what the hardware can achieve. And that, my friend, is really intriguing. Let's have a look, because the one thing that I'm afraid is the frame rate, because I never understood those early tests of 3D poly, low poly games like on the Amiga or the Super Nintendo, when you're like, yeah, it's 3D, but you're playing at 8 frames per second, like it's unplayable. For me, give me at least 20. I'm not even saying 30. 30 would be optimal, like literally remove a few something. But when games play at like 8 frames per second, to me, it's pointless. So let's have a look. Let's open it on YouTube. All right, let's go. Man, I really hope that this... I'm really excited. Let's have a look. All right. Okay, that's smooth. Okay, that's smooth. Ooh, look at the slope simulation. I freaking love it when 2D looks 3D. It's magics. Oh, the curve. This is good. Look at the horizontal scrolling. Man, on a Commodore 64, how the heck did you do that? That's unbelievable. Look at the slope. That's good. I'm impressed. It's actually quite reminiscent of like a simplified Outrun in a way. It feels a bit like Road Rush. You're absolutely right. But then again, remember, Road Rush was a 16-bit game. This is on an 8-bit computer with a massive limitation on colors on screen. So this is impressive. This is why you only have like 2 shades of green, basically, kind of maybe 3. Impressive, impressive. I know it was very short, but I have to say this is technical wizardry. This is technical wizardry. This is, let me see it again. So let's have a look at this section here. So we've got fuel, gears, I guess, high and low. Speed is in kilometers, I imagine. Yeah, because I mean 300 miles per hour, could you imagine? It's a plane. Yeah, so speed is in kilometers. You could use these for like if you want to have like trouble, for instance. Oh, you got to change the oil, for instance, if you wanted to do that. Temperature, in fact, he's got the temperature mark. I hope he uses all of this, like you have to refuel. I do enjoy it, because at this point it looks more like a simulation rather than a game where you're going to really race. You can if you want, but I mean, it still is on a Commodore 64, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. The fact that the sky is gray, it's nice. It kind of gives you the idea of this is like a heavy cement city. I wonder if he could put a blue sky, or if he's already using all of the colors that he has got available on a Commodore 64, which is very likely the case, to be honest. This looks better than the latest Need for Speed. Oh, that's funny. Anyways, no, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I'll give him that. So I'll definitely be following this project to see if it comes to fruition, even with a demo, because I love this kind of things when they try to do something.